I accidentally scrolled too far and I saw the horrible trades, which I usually love to keep as a surprise until the end. And I yelled at Addison, straight up yelled. And I was just like, no, chill, man. How dare you? That's not cool. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that's my trade in the horrible trades. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the DLF Trade Show. I am your host, Russ Fisher at Dynasty House in my new, beautiful, remodeled studio. That's right. One picture. I did it. Yes. But it's a beautiful one. Yeah. T. Higgins autographed jersey, baby. Custom framed. PristineAuctions.com. They're not a sponsor. Be a sponsor. Come on.
They should be.
They should be.
We're rocking their stuff all over the place.
Oh, yeah. You got plenty of their stuff hanging up also. Yeah, come on. Come on. Addison Hayes, Adam Hayes, Hayes _. We are here to talk some trades, trade values, and all of the wonderful stuff you can get while using the DLF Trade Finder, the DLF Trade Analyzer, and DLF YouTube and watching us. You use us to get stuff. I started somewhere. I didn't know where I was, and I did not find my way by the time I got to the end of it.
That's right.
Well. This show, we are talking about free agent running backs, and it's not pretty, everyone. It's not great. But it's something we should talk about because there is stuff to be gained from knowing this information. Whether you are trading for them or trading them away, this is some good stuff. But like I said, it's not pretty because the best name we came up with was Leonard Fournette. He's not as unsexy of a name as he was a year and a half ago. Like, he got just let go by the Jags, and he was written off as being dead, fantasy-wise. Shows up in Tampa, does really well, 2 seasons ago. And at the end of that season. And then this season, he does really well again. He is a free agent now. And I think we're all just crossing our fingers he goes back to Tampa, even without Tom Brady there. It's a system that it won't be the same, but he'll know the line there. He'll know at least a bit of the offense. But even still, even if he doesn't go back, I think he's the guy most likely to get the amount of money where you'll be like, okay, that new team is going to give him the ball.
Right. The key now is, and the reason why I wish we could say that we did this on purpose to talk about free agent running backs after Tom Brady's retirement announcement, to purposely talk about Leonard Fournette if he stays on Tampa Bay without Tom Brady, and that we have a new kind of level of clarity there. But yeah, I mean, I expect that Leonard Fournette goes back to Tampa Bay, and like you said, it's probably not going to be as good as what it was or could have been with Tom Brady.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's not like the Jacksonville Jaguars were all that great, you know. I mean, they made the conference finals that one year because they beat my Steelers, but they made the finals that one year, but it's not like they were all that great any of the other years with Blake Bortles. And
he still watch the tone you put on that name. Watch the tone.
Sorry, with fantasy god Blake Bortles.
There you go.
And Fournette was still a top 12 running back, I think, 2 out of the 3 seasons that he was with Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So,
give the guy the ball, he does good things.
Yeah.
So let's see what some trade value we have found for Leonard Fournette. In a 12-team Superflex league, our first trade is Leonard Fournette and Chris Carson for a 23 first and Gus Edwards. Leonard Fournette comes in at 116, which is a little sad. Chris Carson, 59.5, again, kind of sad, for a total of 175.5. The other side, a 23 first, 253.3. Gus Edwards, 19. Poor Gus Bus. For a total of 273.3. So really, let's face it, this is almost Leonard Fournette and the prayer of a running back for a 23 first and the prayer of a backup running back. So really, would you trade Leonard Fournette for a 23 first?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me reword that because the question becomes, would you trade a 23 first for Leonard Fournette?
No,
I don't think so either. Well, no, just take away the uncertainty. I would not do that. This is a move that the real answer is if this is right before the playoffs coming, yeah, I might consider doing it. I would probably send a future first if I'm a running back away, because usually when you get to the playoffs, you need to send a first to get a running back that is worthwhile putting in, trading for. right? Like
Mhm.
it's hard to get good running backs in the playoffs because everyone knows you need them, so
Right.
no one's going to give them to you cheap. But right now, there doesn't seem to be a reason to send, especially 23 first. Now, I get it. It's a year out still, but they're being treated as almost equal value to good 22 picks.
Or more.
Yeah.
It's the second coming of the 2020 class, basically. So
Okay, so let me ask, would you send, okay, no, because you're not going to send a 22 first right now for Leonard Fournette anyway, I would imagine. Would you send the 112 for Fournette right now?
that's the one I was wondering, would you do? I don't think I would right now. Ask me again in a month whenever he signs with Tampa Bay. I might have changed my answer. It's just the uncertainty is just kind of weird with Fournette. Like, what if he gets on the off chance? What if he gets like Kenyon Drake and he signs a decent enough money of a contract, but he's still kind of like a backup?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of sketch, and I don't know if I like that.
See, I still think, I mean, he is 27, which in running back age is practically on death's door, but I still think he has the, even in the NFL, and with the way he's done in the past year and a half, and draft capital still sadly matters. The fact that he was drafted so early, he has that name cachet of being Leonard Fournette. I think he will get the money to be at least the 1A somewhere. So I do feel okay going out and sending offers for Leonard Fournette. I just don't think there would be a 1 there, at least now.
Mhm.
Like right now with the rookies, we know who is going to be there. We don't necessarily know any idea whatsoever what the order is going to be. I would like to have a better idea of what I'm giving up the ability to draft versus Leonard Fournette. Like that's
Yeah.
really what I'm stuck at. So I would honestly just not give up a first round draft pick of any year for Leonard Fournette. Even, I mean, I know
Right.
there are leagues that have 24 picks available, and usually I would say it's 24 pick, but still, I don't think you need or should give up anything with a 1 at the beginning for Leonard Fournette.
Yeah. I think I'm on board with that.
This one is a more interesting idea, though I don't agree with the execution. The next trade is also 12-team Superflex, and it's the 107 and Leonard Fournette for DeAndre Swift. Also not great. The 107 and Leonard Fournette, who's still 116, a total of, man, I'm taking away the package adjustment just to make this a little closer to being fair. So that puts it at about 416.3 to DeAndre Swift, who is 710.8. No. Okay, if this was like David Montgomery,
yeah, how high on the or I guess how low on the running back depth chart are you going on this in
like
ADP
Montgomery
rankings?
was the first name that easily came to mind because he's that second tierish of players where he's good. He's
stable.
Yeah,
He's younger.
absolutely. And like it's a running back you can pay up. It's worth paying up for because David Montgomery's that guy you feel good about throwing him in your lineup every week, right? He's absolutely, well, let's just say he has done absolutely fine. And now, fingers crossed, it can't get much worse than when you had Nagy. So
yes.
so hopefully Montgomery does a little better. Okay, I pulled up the DLF. I was vamping while I got to pull it up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, DeAndre Swift, who was the running back 2, by the way, and it's just now February, so this is still January DLF ADP, another wonderful tool that you can get at dynastyleaguefootball.com. Okay, let me jump down to running back 12 because honestly, anyone above that, no. 12 is J.K. Dobbins. Leonard Fournette in the 107 for J.K. Dobbins.
I'd take J.K.
Yeah. Antonio Gibson.
I would take Gibson for the same reasons as Monty.
Elijah Mitchell.
I would take Elijah Mitchell. I feel like a lot of other people would take the 107 and Fournette.
But at least we're getting towards the conversation area.
Yeah.
Cam Akers.
I would take Cam Akers. He's gonna
go up.
Yeah.
Because medical marvel. I mean, Derrick Henry.
I would take Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I think it would too now. That's when we hit David Montgomery. Zeke Elliott was running back 18.
Yeah. I would take the first and Fournette. I'm
over
gonna be
Zeke.
honest with you. Over Zeke, yeah.
I mean, you're getting a running back who is pretty much the same age, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and man, kind of looks sprier, if you will, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I still just think I keep Zeke.
I just think Zeke and Fournette, in my opinion, are just maybe I'm just lower on Zeke, but
They
like they
might be
should be
similar at
close
this
enough.
point, especially with the way they're using No, you're right. They can walk into very
Mhm.
similar situations. Like, let's pretend Fournette gets signed to a good team and then gets, spoiler alert, signed with Chase Edmonds on the same team.
Yeah,
Then what's the
what if
difference?
he's the person that the Cardinals sign and they don't keep Connor? And
Yeah,
they sign
exactly.
Leonard Fournette. Now we're talking about like 1,000-yard, double-digit touchdown running back, and
But that could also that's also the same situation as Zeke. You're in a
yep.
good offense. You're playing pretty well. I mean,
Mhm.
Zeke is not Zeke anymore. And you have a fast pass catcher behind you, even though you do have the ability to catch passes, which we can get over the fact that Leonard Fournette could not do it for the first 3 years of his career. We've seen him do it for 2 in a row.
Yeah.
So I think once you that's around the area, I think we're ready to talk about this 107 and Leonard Fournette. And we're down at running back 18 because below him, ETN, Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, Josh Jacobs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Michael Carter. And now we're at people that I don't know if you would add to the 107 at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to highlight Aaron Jones. I would 100% take the 107 and Fournette over Aaron Jones. I feel like some people might have him just be like, oh, it's Aaron Jones. That's a great move. But I would take Fournette in the 107.
Took me so long to get off of that. It was like after the season where I'm like, okay, no, let me take a look back. Aaron Jones is not Aaron Jones anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He was slow. He was declining. His usage was declining.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Josh Jacobs, the other one, I would probably take Josh Jacobs over the 107.
Remember how low we used to be on Josh Jacobs? And now we're sort of like, okay, no, all right. He's actually been doing all right.
Yeah.
Like it's funny, his usage didn't change. He did start to do a little, maybe it was Gruden, because the second Gruden left, I feel like he was doing better with what he had. He still wasn't catching too many passes, though he did catch more than normal after Gruden.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
All right, but we're spending way too much time on not even Leonard Fournette while talking about Leonard Fournette. So we're going to move on to a guy we did just mention in James Conner.
Mm-hmm.
James Conner, free agent from the Cardinals, which another guy we hope just kind of stays because, man, that touchdown upside on that team is just through the roof.
Yeah, holy crap.
Yeah. The first team, a lot of these are just 12-team Superflex. The first trade is James Conner and Darrell Henderson. That is a grouping for Rondale Moore and Kenny Golladay. That is an interesting grouping. So James Conner, 80.2, Darrell Henderson, 62.3 for a total of 142.5. Rondale Moore, 123.8. I'm glad he's above those guys. And Kenny Golladay, so sad at 73.8, though. Man, that offense might actually be okay with an actual creative person on the team, running the team now.
Maybe.
So the trade analyzer has this Conner side 142, Rondale side 197.6. I'm going to let my amazing wide receiver bias take over me and take the side that the analyzer says anyway. I love the idea of Rondale Moore. AJ Green, I think, is gone. DeAndre Hopkins is another year older. Christian Kirk is a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So hashtag Rondale Moore season?
Maybe.
I mean, no, I'm not actually calling that, but I do think his usage should increase and it will do better. But this is the right move. If you're trying to trade away James Conner, you find that young guy with upside that you believe in, and you find someone who you can say, this dude is just so touchdown safe that it's worth it. Right. And you could probably get that swap done and you'll both leave feeling good about it. I think this is a good trade. I just happen to really like Rondale Moore and the idea of Kenny Golladay on what should hopefully be a better Giants offense, because I want Daniel Jones to be okay and I want Saquon to be well. So there's a lot of my hopes and dreams in this trade right now, but I will take the wide receivers.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Maybe that's just how I'm not as in on Rondale Moore as you. The only thing that's holding me back is I wish Darrell Henderson was someone different. Like I wish I think he's great as like like a couple other free agent running backs we're going to talk about in a second. Like a couple of those two guys, like because they're all kind of in the range that I'm looking at with Darrell Henderson's ADP, or like Alexander Mattison, Darrell Williams. You know, I don't know. Man, I really soured on Darrell Henderson, I think, after what he did to me in the last half of the year. Yeah, I maybe it's just how I feel about Darrell Henderson, but I would totally be fine with James Conner 1-for-1 for Rondale or for Kenny Golladay. It's just kind of pairing those two and then pairing Conner with Henderson that it's tricky.
I mean, that makes when you word it like that makes a lot of sense. But also, again, I completely understand this trade. Like, first of all, now it's February. Chances are this trade was made in January.
Yeah.
You are not setting a lineup for like 8 months. Do not say, I need running back depth, so I'm going to make this trade. You don't. Right. There's no such thing as depth when you don't have to set a lineup. Just don't worry about it. Don't do that. But I love the idea of moving these guys for someone like Rondale Moore. But honestly, the right move might be going for these running backs because there is a better chance of James Conner's value rising if he signs. Man, when he signs, because if he stays in Arizona, I think it should go up a little bit. Just because it's super low right now, and we'll know he's in a good environment to do what he did at the end of last year, which was pretty well. And Rondale Moore, like, he is what he is. Nothing's going to happen for his value to change. Though I guess if Kirk does sign somewhere else, that'll help. But overall, he is what he is, and I don't think Kirk going somewhere else would really even change people's minds if they're already down on Rondale Moore, which there are a lot of people out there down on Rondale Moore. However right or wrong that is, that's on them. But this next trade, I took a sip of water. I took a deep breath because someone traded James Conner. No. Let me put this the other way around. Someone accepted a trade where they were offered James Conner for Zach Moss and Juju Smith-Schuster. You just made two men angry right now.
I saw this trade. I was like, I have to include this one, dude, just because I know how we both feel about Juju.
If let's walk down a pretend street that I am going to make up in imaginary land right now. Let's pretend that 2 years ago, Juju wasn't playing hurt with terrible quarterback play. Let's pretend Juju wasn't hurt this entire season. And that's why his value is as low as it is and why people are so sour on him. Let's pretend he's just bad. He is younger than James Conner. He is a wide receiver we'd seen score. I can't remember how high he scored, but he was top 15, I think, that year 10. With AB, right?
10.
Top 10?
Uh-huh.
Man, go past 3 days ago, and I'm not remembering anything that happened. So I'm glad you had that in your back pocket. So I can't imagine trading Juju away, no matter how bad you feel about him, for James Conner. In which case, good for you on trading James Conner for Juju Smith-Schuster. And man, Zach Moss, I don't think that matters in the world.
Roll.
Yeah, that not even. Like, I don't even. The dude was a healthy scratch in the playoff run, like for seeding, and that says all you need to know.
Yeah.
But man, again, the same thing I said before. This is more or less the same thing as a trade above. Go trade for someone with upside. Go trade these guys that have value from the end of last season that you can easily sell at the idea of it makes sense for their team to sign them back. And it doesn't really matter because this dude's going to score touchdowns because he's going to be the goal line back no matter where he goes. And he'll probably get enough money for him to have to play. And if that can walk you away with Rondale Moore or Juju, I was about to say no less getting Golladay or Zach Moss thrown in, but don't worry about that second part. No less getting, I mean, a guy we've seen it do before in Kenny Golladay. Yeah, that's a perfect move.
Yeah. All in on Team Juju. The only thing that might really upset me with Juju is that he's talking about re-signing with the Steelers, and the Steelers are also talking about having Mason Rudolph at quarterback, and that's just gonna make me sad all the way around.
Why do they want to lose? I don't get it.
I don't know.
Their defense is too good to tank. That's the only problem. So I have no idea why we want to bring Mason Rudolph back, but that's a different show to talk about. I was hoping you'd find like some trades where people are like, no, I like the idea of going to get James Conner, because if I can get James Conner, I would send mid to late seconds for James Conner right now.
There were a bunch in there. I didn't really want to get repetitive with just like what's the pick value for this guy and this guy. Like these were like really interesting trades that I thought were good to talk about for James. Like there's one in here like James Conner for Sonny Michel and Jordan Akins. And you're like, you know, or Marvin Jones. And I'm like, come on. So there's definitely a market out there where you could buy James Conner for really cheap, or there's a market out there where you could sell James Conner for Chase Claypool in 23 first. So don't do that. But
is that maybe it's like a name, like a league where you get extra points for having a name like the guy who fought the Terminator?
Maybe
points per John Connor. I think that's a league.
And points per carry. Yep, those two.
No, there's no reason to do that trade. All right. So much like when we did the free agent wide receivers, that second show, there was a couple of people we wanted to talk about, and it wasn't easy to really throw stuff together. So we just slap them all together and do a couple of trades. And that's where we are right now. The next free agent running back we want to talk about is Melvin Gordon. And Melvin Gordon is going to be fine no matter where he goes. Like he's not vet minimum yet. He is 28, but he's playing well over the idea of vet minimum somewhere just to be a depth piece. So he's going to go somewhere or stay and still be part of that backfield. So if I could get that for the 212, which is what this trade is, and honestly, the analyzer, 61 for Gordon, 70.8 for the 212, which again, a difference of 9 is literally next to nothing in our analyzer, but still valued more. I do that pretty easily. I'll go get Melvin Gordon, and if anything, sell him for the 205 before the draft comes. A couple of steps up, or just hold on to him and have a decent running back in a little bit.
Yeah, amen, dude. I mean, I think you're in agreement with me as well that he's staying in Denver, right?
It would be the smart football move. It would make me sad for Javonte Williams, but it's the smart football move.
Yeah. And I think that if Gordon signs with Denver, we're not going to see the 50-50 split, or in some cases where it seemed like Gordon was like 60-40 over Javonte.
Yeah.
I think that kind of flips where Javonte starts to take over more. But that doesn't mean that Gordon doesn't have a role and won't be a guy that you can just plug in on most weeks as a depth piece. Or, I mean, knock on wood, should Javonte Williams get hurt and miss like a game or two, and you have like a for sure like RB2 with RB1 upside in Melvin Gordon by himself in the Broncos backfield, right?
Next, we have a guy, again, we mentioned before, in Chase Edmonds, where Chase Edmonds, who comes in at 74.4, was traded for the 209 and Jalen Guyton. So late second and a dart throw. And I have to be honest, I like Chase Edmonds. Everything I said before for Melvin Gordon sort of fits for Chase Edmonds, minus the whole age thing, because Edmonds is 25 and a pass catcher. Chase Edmonds did really well at the beginning of the year. He didn't score touchdowns, which is why I don't think people were as into him as they could have been. But he was catching a lot of passes. He was running efficiently enough. That's a way to say it.
Yeah.
But if I can get a late second and a guy like, okay, so Jalen Guyton seemed to get play when Mike Williams was hobbled, even like when he missed games for sure. But even when he had the knee injury and played for those 2 or 3 games, Jalen Guyton sort of took that deep role. And Mike Williams is a free agent. If the Chargers don't pull a splash move and go sign Allen Robinson, like Addison brought up, is the only way that would make me feel okay with Mike Williams leaving.
I get such good feelings thinking about Allen Robinson instead of Mike Williams and the Chargers.
What's going to be hilarious is when I'm not lazy, I'm going to have a Bears Allen Robinson and a Keenan Allen jersey next to each other, most likely. And then one day I'll have to like make them watch Dragon Ball Z to do the fusion dance, and I can get Allen Robinson in the powder blue, baby. Yes. Such a nerd reference. Awesome. I love that I just brought that in. So, but it's the same thing we've been saying this entire time. If you can trade these guys for upside, that's awesome. But also trading for these guys, trading for Chase Edmonds right now, again, if he gets re-signed, I think his value goes up. If he goes to, Tampa, Miami. Like, there's a lot of places that don't seem to want to spend on running back that need running backs.
Yeah.
And if Chase Edmonds goes there, there's a chance of him being the 1A there.
Yeah, or at least the 1B, like how he was with James Conner, kind of in that Tony Pollard role, you know?
Well, I mean, he started as the 1A, but the second he like started like limping a little bit, they're like, okay, Connor, go. And then he became the 1A. But yeah, absolutely. If he becomes the pass catcher on a team that has a bad quarterback and dumps off a decent amount, like if he goes to Tampa right now without Tom Brady.
Yeah.
The next trade is, I'll never be happy talking about Rashaad Penny. It's dug in here what the Seahawks did. But if you Rashaad Penny for the 205, I need you to tell me what your answer is first.
I would take the 205. No, I lied. No. No, I would take Rashaad Penny. Okay, I'm back on that. I would take Rashaad Penny over the 2.05 because I don't believe in the super depth of this class. I think we could see something similar that like what happened with 2021, where you have like the top 4 guys and then another longer like second tier that might go like 8 deep. But then when you hit this mid-second, you're kind of like, ew, like I could take this 5th round running back, or I could take this 2nd round wide receiver who should have been taken in round 7, and I'm not really sure what to do here. Like it got really gross in 2021. I think that's what's going to happen again in 2022. So I would take the shot on Rashaad Penny re-signing in Seattle, being the guy, and not necessarily doing what he did to the end of the year, because he had like 600 rushing yards in 4 games. But being the volume back for Seattle is valuable,
fantasy worthwhile.
Yeah. So I think the 205 is right where you get the line between that upside is now worth the risk, you know?
It's really funny because I was about to say 205 kind of feels like a line for me, because the 205, 206 is what you say mid-second. And I don't know if I'm good for sending a mid-second for Rashaad Penny. If we were talking to 209, 212, I wouldn't feel great about it. Let me put that, I would not be super thrilled. But imagine what happens if he does resign and we do learn Chris Carson doesn't come back from neck fusion surgery, which still sounds terrifying, which I don't even know if it's as bad as it sounds, but like, I'm assuming he could still turn his head if necessary.
Nah, he's 1989 Michael Keaton Batman. He's like, if somebody calls him, he's like, just his whole neck is just moving like this. This is how I envision Chris Carson now.
Which is why if you watch Batman Begins and he shows Lucius Fox the layout of the Batman outfit he wants, he goes, "Oh, you want to turn your head?
You want to be able to turn your head?"
Oh no, I was in the Dark Knight, because even in the first Batman Begins, he had to do that. Yeah. You want to turn your head? Yeah, because he couldn't turn his head.
Man, Batman, Dragon Ball Z, we're rolling.
I love.
What else can we do,
dude? We can't plan it, then it's not organic and it doesn't work as well. But okay, so like. Okay, I'm stuck at the 205 because at 205, there always seems to still be someone you want, whether it's someone worthwhile taking. Like at the 205, you got Michael Carter. At the 205, you got
Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon was going at the 112. You know,
That's
let's not forget Keyshawn Vaughn, buddy. But like there's one of the more like Rondale fell to the 205 like a little bit every once in a while. Rashad Bateman, and I wish I could remember players from the year before, but my brain doesn't work that well, and I'm stuck on what just happened. But if you go a few steps back, I'll be like, all right, these are more dart throws than I think Rashaad Penny is. So that's absolutely fine. So let's move on to the next trade, which is so much more interesting, in Odell Beckham and Rashaad Penny for Amari Cooper. I have to think this is someone just insanely down on Amari Cooper and super happy with Odell, the idea of Odell on the Rams, who I think
is also a free agent.
Yeah, his contract's not passed this year, so who knows? But again, smart football move would be bringing Odell back. So yeah, this is the upside of Odell and Penny versus Amari Cooper, who is so weird to say is 27 by now, because to me, he's always 24. because he came in the league at 21 and he's been here for 18 years.
He came in the league at like 17. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is so easily Amari Cooper to me. I don't understand the hate on the Cowboys receivers right now between Amari and CeeDee Lamb. It's just, I get it. They didn't finish super strong, but they still scored pretty darn well. And now one of them is going somewhere. Michael Gallup's a free agent. Amari Cooper's salary is maybe cuttable, movable, but
it gets pretty rough in the next year or two. Yeah.
But still, I will take the talent and what we've seen Amari Cooper do in multiple places versus the hope Odell can be good, because let's face it, he's not wide receiver 1 Odell Beckham anymore. And then the hope that Rashaad Penny just gets the volume. So I would, and the analyzer agrees, this is 280.5 to a total of, again, take away the package adjustment, 168. Man, I can't even add 30 right now. That's how much my brain is just not working. So to me, this is super Amari Cooper, but also, again, what you do with these free agents is you sell what they can be to other people and find people they're down on that they have on your team that are either good or have that upside that they just don't want to see, don't see, or don't care that it's there.
Yeah.
And also, if you want to do it the other way around and you want to buy the upside of these running backs, because there is always a better chance, and let's pretend you have a wide receiver and a running back, both free agents, both not free agents, it doesn't matter. And something happens to affect their value, whether it's Michael Gallup leaving and Amari Cooper staying, or Rashaad Penny staying or leaving. The running back's value will change more.
Yeah. I pulled this trade, and I will say there is a world next year where the production of Odell Beckham Jr. and Rashaad Penny both greatly outweigh what you're getting from Amari Cooper individually. I don't know what the likelihood of that world is, but there is a world, because over the last 7 weeks of the season, Odell Beckham Jr. and Amari Cooper were both averaging the same points per game. That's when OBJ got established in LA and Amari was just there. Amari was the wide receiver 28 last year, averaging just over 13 points per game. He was not great.
Yeah, that is not great.
And OBJ, when he got established, was basically kind of doing the same kind of thing in LA. And of course, that's without Robert Woods. So I don't know if Robert Woods is back on the Rams again, or if he's a cap casualty that gets cut, or what it is, and then even assuming that OBJ is back on the Rams. And then if you assume that Rashaad Penny is back on the Seahawks and kind of maintains the role that we saw from him at the end of the year, like I said, there is a world. I don't know what the probability of it, because I just said a lot of ifs.
But I mean, there's ifs on both sides.
Yeah.
This next trade is our last free agent, and it's Devin Singletary, who comes in at 70.9 on the trade analyzer, was traded for the 212 and the 306, which comes in at 98.2 after a very small package adjustment. I would easily send the 212 and the 306 for Devin Singletary right now. Devin Singletary did really well at the end of last year. Pretty much once they stopped trying to give the ball to Zach Moss, when Josh Allen was not the only running back on the team. So to me, Devin Singletary is, if he stays in a decent enough place, because every year that goes by, you try and make your running quarterback run a little less. Even though Josh Allen is built like a freaking linebacker, you still don't want him taking those hits. You still just don't want that. Hopefully they don't stop designing runs for him, because that's part of his fantasy upside. But even still, if he goes somewhere else, he falls in the same line as the rest of these guys. He won't / shouldn't walk into a role where he's just a backup.
Yeah.
So I would easily send these late picks for a guy who I think should be starting somewhere. This is the kind of trade I think you could do now and feel great about. Because even if he doesn't, it's the 212 and 306. Who cares?
Are you assuming he's back in Buffalo?
Again, it makes football sense. Yeah.
See, my concern with Devin Singletary is I think the Bills want to run more.
So you think they want to go
not Josh Allen? So I think they want somebody. And I mean, there were rumors last year that, their general manager was saying that if if ETN or Najee were there, that they would have taken him.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. I never really believed it, because it just never, they used to, after Dawson Knox's first year, when we loved the idea of his athleticism. The Bills kept saying, we want to use our tight end. We want to use our tight end. We want Knox to be that guy, but he might not. So maybe we're going to make a move. And then they did nothing, and nothing changed.
And then Knox became the guy this year.
Right. It took 2 or 3 years. But like they don't seem to make changes, or at least make changes quickly. Again, now they lost their GM and their OC, so who knows?
Right.
That's who they lost, right?
Their OC, they lost Dabble. Yeah.
And the Giants' now GM was someone in the Bills organization. I can't remember what he did.
I don't know. That was
we're really good. It's freaking New Jersey. But again, I'm fine sending these late picks for Devin Singletary because again, I believe in the player. In like, he's not great. Let's call that what it is. But he's good enough to be part of a committee. And if you're sending picks that are beyond dart throws at this point, that's a safer dart throw.
I just think I mean, you said Devin Singletary is like not that great. I just think that he's like Chuba Hubbard, and you're just kind of like, you know, which you might be comfortable trading the 212 for Chuba Hubbard if you want that depth piece, and I probably would. And yeah,
but right now, what's the chances if he goes somewhere else, he's stuck behind someone like Christian McCaffrey?
I mean, there's a handful of teams that he could go where he could be kind of stuck behind somebody. As I say that, I can't think of
exactly, because
what if he signs in like Pittsburgh or something like that, because Benny Snell and everybody else.
Okay, that's like the one other spot besides Carolina that like gives their running back 99% of the touches.
Yeah,
but even a healthy Saquon, a healthy Zeke, we see what the Browns do. But most of these stud running backs these days, I mean, even Dalvin Cook doesn't get 90% of the rushes. Like, we still
see that doesn't mean that their backups are valuable though. Like, Madison is not worth anything when Cook is in there.
Yeah, but you would still send the 212 for that upside of having the guy behind.
Right.
When Cook goes down. Well, Cook is unfortunately one of those players that you could say when instead of if.
Okay, I'm on board.
Again, it's
not like the 212 is going to be anything fantastic anyway. The 212 is going to be the same type of running back. You know,
the 212 to me is something you're going to want to use for something else. Like, I don't make that pick. But again, this is the same thing that we've been talking about this entire time. The player with the upside, the pick that this one might not have much upside, but at least you could put him in other trades. It's easier to use a pick in a trade than it is to use a specific player, because with a guy like Devin Singletary, not only do you have to find someone who wants a running back, you have to find someone who likes Devin Singletary, or at least thinks that he has the value to be able to flip him after that. Mm-hmm. But the 212 is the 212. It's a pick. It's easier to use to move rolling forward. So there's a lot to go based on that, which is why, again, this is fine either way. But how I feel about running backs, I will gladly spend the 212 for someone I could use as an RB2 in a league that makes me start 2 RBs. Okay. Now, there's a story that needs to come along with these horrible trades. Mm-hmm. I was scrolling through the show sheet, as I usually do, to see which players we're talking about when it's something that I, didn't demand we talk about those specific players, that I accidentally scrolled too far and I saw the horrible trades, which I usually love to keep as a surprise until the end. And I yelled at Addison, straight up yelled. And I was just like, no, chill, man. How dare you? That's not cool. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that's my trade in the horrible trades. And he scrolls. He's like, no, it's not. Wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, I made that trade. And he's scrolling and looking and he reads the team name. I'm like, that's not my trade.
That's a different league.
Also, thankfully, the timing of the 2 trades changed the narrative significantly, because the trade we're about to talk about is Melvin Gordon for DeAndre Hopkins.
Oof.
Now, let me defend myself for a second. I did it week 13, week 14, just about to hit the playoffs. My team was good, but it was struggling a little bit with all the injuries. DeAndre Hopkins was on injured reserve. So I traded him for the guy who had the best finishing schedule at running back. It was not a good, even value trade. I get that. I understood that. but I wanted to try and win. I didn't, but it was worth a shot. After looking this up, Addison says, "Oh no, this trade happened 2 weeks ago." Oh, I feel better. Okay, because at least mine made sense at the time, in the moment. Again, it wasn't an even value trade, and I get it. But man, in January, post fantasy football postseason, to trade away DeAndre Hopkins, who I don't care that he's 29. I don't care about anything else that he ended the season on the IR, because he's still DeAndre Hopkins, for Melvin Gordon is wrong.
Yeah. Man, how far have we come? This trade would have made sense like 4 years ago.
Right? When they were both studs.
How cool would that have been? But man, yeah, this was bad. And I did get concerned that I pulled your own trade, but
I got concerned too, because that would hurt my feelings immensely.
Yeah, but no, this was done in the NFL playoffs. So after the regular season, after the fantasy football season, this trade was done a couple weeks ago. And somebody traded Melvin Gordon for DeAndre Hopkins and vice versa. And whoever got Hopkins is a major winner. This
Just to put it out there, trade analyzer in a 12-team superflex, Melvin Gordon 61, DeAndre Hopkins 282.5.
Yikes.
Everything I said before is still absolutely true. Trading for these running backs can be a very good idea. It's a little bit of a risk, but usually you want to do low risk, high reward. DeAndre Hopkins is not low risk asset to send away. Because he can come back and be healthy and be DeAndre Hopkins again.
Oh, man. That was good. I like that one.
Ugh.
Would have been the best horrible trades we've ever done, just on the fact that you were so terrified that was your trade.
Oh man, there would have been so much more yelling if it actually were my trade. But thankfully, it wasn't. This has been another episode of the DLF Trade Show. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse in his beautiful new studio. There you go. Beautiful new studio. Same studio. I just hung up a picture. Addison Hayes at Maze Hayes _ in his already beautifully designed studio. We'll catch you next time.